Let's pick up on the biggest news story of the morning with the central character in, if not the central character, one of the top 3 to 5 central characters in the story of the censorship of the Hunter Biden laptop. Elon Musk last night held a Twitter space where he began to talk about the unveiling of the Twitter files. And at the center of this story, as is often the case, is the man on your television screen right now, John Paul Mac Isaac. He owned the laptop repair shop, the computer repair shop, where Hunter Biden dropped off his laptop. Good morning, John Paul. It's great to see you again. You know, since we last spoke, all 4 of us here together, there's been a lot that's happened, including as recently as last night. I'm just curious, after you've seen everything unfold and you saw some of Elon in the last couple of days, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm grateful. I don't know how many people know, but I basically was financially ruined by Twitter last year. I tried to save my career because Twitter labeled my actions hacking. I went after them in a defamation suit. I think, though, ultimately the goal from the opposition was to make sure that Twitter would cut my legs off and make sure that I would never have an opportunity to fight my battles in the court of law again. So obviously watching Elon release this material over on Friday night was very exciting for me, because what I felt like I knew the whole time was true. And I feel vindicated. I feel I'm grateful for Elon. If he wants free tech support, he's got it. You know, it's refreshing. It's obviously, you know, if he had bought Twitter during the lawsuit, I think things would have worked out a little bit better for me. But you know what? It is what it is, and I'm grateful that the truth is coming out now, and that I'm vindicated.
Go ahead.
Matt, here's one of the tweets that came out from Matt Taibbi as part of the exposure of Twitter. He said, Twitter's public policy executive, Caroline Strom, so it's Strom's note, returned the answer that the laptop story had been removed for violation of the company's hacked materials policy. Now, you had been approached by the FBI. They were in possession of the laptop and that information. We also know that agencies were meeting with Twitter on a regular basis and other social media companies before the election. So how much time would Twitter or the FBI have had with your material, especially the FBI, before they made this excuse that it was hacking?
Well, the FBI took possession of the laptop on December 9th, and with that, they took all my notes, all my information that I had provided them. And so they had ample time to review that data, realize that it wasn't Russia.
December 9th of 2019?
Yeah.
December 9th of 2019.
And the story breaks
in October of 2020.
So they had, what is that, 10 months to know and share. And we know they were meeting, right, John Paul, with big tech, to know and disseminate the information. This is real. We're taking it seriously. And actually, we're trying to squash it instead of pretending all of a sudden it's hacked.
Exactly. When I watched the internet shut down on October 14th, the New York Post came out with a story at 6:30 in the morning. By 9 o'clock, you couldn't find any discussion of it on the internet. That's not something that happens naturally. That's something that's coordinated and set up so that when the story broke, they were going to be ready. They could flick a switch and they could shut it down. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm really hoping that, combined with my future lawsuits, hopefully the more people will read my book to understand what really happened. And I'm really hoping that the truth will come out and I can get on with my life.
Yeah, the truth will set you free. How just upset were you that the FBI, that's supposed to be actually investigating people like Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, was actually the ones covering it up? I mean, you went with really good intentions to the FBI, and they turned out to be the bad guys. How did you process that?
Well, you know, I was always suspicious of the FBI. January of 2019, they raided Roger Stone's house with CNN, 3 years of Russia collusion. So I was apprehensive. I think the person that was affected the most was my father. He had given 31 years of his life to the military in defense of this country. He's never asked this country or his government for anything in return. He went to the Albuquerque FBI field office to get protection for his son, because his son was in possession of a time bomb and he was worried about my safety. And he feels so disenfranchised with the government. I'm hoping that I can bring some justice to my father so that he can love his country again.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Speaking of love of country, you know, First Amendment, Elon Musk spoke last night on Twitter about what he's trying to bring to Twitter. Take a listen to this.
It seemed to be like this more and more groupthink amongst the media, more and more sort of towing the line amongst digital social media companies, and basically just we're traveling the path more and more of suppression of free speech.
You know, so we're talking about Twitter, but we only know about Twitter, John Paul, because of Elon Musk. But you could go to Facebook, you could go to Google, you could go to any number of other platforms where these things went on, and we may never know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Zuckerberg needs to go on Joe Rogan some more, because we seem to learn more and more about Facebook every time he's on.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd love, if you guys will forgive me, I'd love to ask you two quick questions, John Paul. One, as much as we have seen from what Elon has released about the coordination between the government and Twitter, there isn't necessarily a smoking gun yet when it comes to your case, Hunter Biden. In other words, we don't have the government official saying, spike that. Do you think that probably exists? Do you expect that somewhere and is yet to be seen? We see a Twitter that's ready and willing to do what the government wants, or in this case, the DNC. It was actually the DNC at this time, so the Democratic Party. But we haven't yet seen who made the call and who put it in their mind.
Well, I believe Zuckerberg described at least the FBI and Facebook's interaction as predominantly in person or over the phone.
Right.
I think the FBI is smart enough not to create a paper trail when it comes to affecting the course of an election. So I'm pretty sure the FBI was careful about how they communicated. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we do have acknowledgement from Facebook. Even Zuckerberg back in October 28th of 2020 told Congress when Zuckerberg and YouTube and Google got dragged in front of Congress to explain Section 230 immunity. They said that it was common practice for law enforcement to reach out to social media. Mm-hmm. So I'm not surprised that there's not a paper trail. I hope that the FBI is smart enough not to implicate them in something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised. You know, the FBI knew it wasn't Russian. They knew it was Russian when I told them. They came to my home. They finally came to the shop. They took the laptop. They did not admit the laptop as evidence in the impeachment trial. That's when I knew the FBI was bent. So, you know, there's really no excuse.
Yeah, I really hope all of you, I mean, I do think you've been vindicated, but there are others that have been vindicated. Rudy Giuliani. I mean, there's so many people who were calling out what was happening, who could see that this was actually going to alter an election once they suppressed this information. And I really respect you for sticking through it all, despite having so many people try to cancel you and the weight of the federal government on you.
Really quick, the other question I want to ask is, what's your relationship now with the FBI, John Paul? Have you, after all this has gone down, after you've spoken to us, do you hear from the FBI?
Not at all. I've offered fresh, clean copies of the drive if they've lost the one that I gave them back in December. You know, if they want to work with me, I respect the agency. If I didn't believe in the FBI, I would never have gone to the FBI. I just didn't trust the FBI. There's two different things. So I would still like to have and give the opportunity to the FBI to revisit this issue and clear the name.
Amazing.
Interesting.
All right, John Paul Mac Isaac, what's your book again, real quick?
American Injustice: My Battle to Expose the Truth.
Sounds like a good Christmas gift with 21 days left.
It sure does.
For sure.
It sure does.
John Paul Mac Isaac, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.